How to use the calibrated sculk sensor in Minecraft. The calibrated sculk sensor is a new redstone component that can filter specific vibrations, and there are a few differences with a sculk sensor. The crafting recipe is 3 amethyst shards and a sculk sensor. It can only be crafted in the game and there is no way to find it. How to use the calibrated sculk sensor in Minecraft. The calibrated sculk sensors will work similarly to the sculk sensor, but there are differences. First, there will be one side of the calibrated sculk sensor that will have a white trail on it. This will be the input. If you put a redstone signal next to this side, it will only detect vibrations of that signal. For example, a redstone block will output a redstone signal of 15. The calibrated sculk sensor will only detect vibrations that are at level 15. The calibrated sculk sensor would only detect mobs and players dying or an explosion. The calibrated sculk sensor would only output a redstone signal when it detects that vibration. The easiest way to set a signal is to use a lectern with a 15-page book on it with a redstone comparator facing out into the calibrated sculk sensor's input. This will allow you to change the redstone signal depending on the page it is on. The redstone comparator will measure the fullness of any container, so you can use a lot of different things in the game like chests, barrel, or hoppers and put items into them to get the comparator to output the signal you want. If the calibrated sculk sensor does not have a redstone signal going into the input, it'll function the same as a sculk sensor and detect any vibration. I should mention that the vibration is a sound given off by a player, mobs, or entities in the game. Here's a list of the different vibrations and the output. Obviously, there are a lot of different possibilities. The calibrated sculk sensor doesn't detect vibrations from other sculk sources or the warden. It also does not detect if the player is sneaking or walking on wool or carpet. Wool can also be used to block vibrations by putting the wool blocks on the sides of the calibrated sculk sensor. The calibrated sculk sensor does have a range of a 16 block spherical radius around it. The sculk sensor only has an 8 block radius. The calibrated sculk sensor will output a redstone signal strength that is inversely proportional to the distance to the sensor. What that means is that if you walk on the sensor, this will output a signal of 15, but if you are at the edge of the 16 block range of the sensor, it will output a redstone signal of 1. The closer you are, the higher the redstone signal. However, if you have a redstone comparator facing out from the calibrated sculk sensor, the redstone signal will be the vibration detected instead. If you eat food within the radius of the sensor, it will output a redstone signal of 8. No matter how far or close you are, as long as you are within range. The calibrated sculk sensor has a 1-second cooldown instead of 2 seconds of the sculk sensor. The purpose of the cooldown is to prevent a loop from happening where it keeps repeating. In the 1.20 update, the calibrated sculk sensor can be waterlogged and still detect vibrations. This means it won't make any sound and still works, which means it could be useful for traps or just if you don't like the sound. Also, the sculk sensors are called wireless redstone, and some additions in the update make it easier to use. Now, amethyst blocks can be used to send a signal from one sculk sensor to the next sculk sensor. If you place the amethyst block next to the calibrated sculk sensor or sculk sensor, you can hear a sound that is the same as walking on the amethyst block. It'll send a signal to the calibrated sculk sensor or the sculk sensor as long as it is within range to detect it. So 16 blocks for calibrated and 8 for the normal sculk sensor. The sound the signal travels will be 20 blocks per a second. Also within the calibrated sculk sensor, if you are filtering for a vibration, it'll send that to the next calibrated or sculk sensor. You may only need the calibrated sculk sensor at the first part to detect the vibration and send the signal down the line. I could see that if you're trying to detect multiple vibrations, you would need all the calibrated sculk sensors to be filtering the vibration. I should also mention that when you are using calibrated sculk sensors like this, the redstone signal it outputs will be 1 as the signal was on the edge of the range of the sensor. If you put the amethyst block closer, it will output a higher redstone signal. However, if you are using a redstone comparator, this will output the vibration as the redstone signal like I showed previously. This is easy to fix by putting a redstone repeater next to it to boost the signal back up to 15. In conclusion, I could see the calibrated sculk sensor being used for a lot of different things like piston doors to replace using pressure plates to open doors, for making traps and activating redstone circuits.